At this time, I'd like to call the work session of October 14th, 2025 to order. Roll call, please.
Roll call, Parker,
Here.
Gonzalez. Here. Brenneman,
Here.
Haley. Wakes. Mulvaney Henry. Here. You have a quorum.
Okay.
Supposed to call my name last.
Oh, Wakes.
Here.
You still have a quorum.
Okay, that brings us to board update and GM update. Does any of the board members have any updates they'd like to present? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. Stevie Wakes, I did attend the, what's it called,
Standing committee. Standing committee.
Fairfax Festival. It was a very nice day to be outside and see representatives from the Fairfax district and also the Fairfax water drainage district. Well, interesting gathering. One other board member was present.
Mr. President, we need to approve the agenda.
Oh. Okay. We need to approve.
To re-give your-
Have a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda. Roll call.
Roll call, Parker,
Aye.
Gonzalez.
Aye.
Brenneman,
Aye.
Wakes.
Aye.
Mulvaney Henry.
Aye.
That motion carries.
Okay, you want to start over again?
Yeah. A quick update.
Okay.
Thank you to all of you. Got to attend the Future Forward conference last week in Topeka, which was really interesting. Nick Moreno was a panelist and did an excellent job. I was in a different one, but came up to him and chatted with him afterwards, and like 3 or 4 different people stopped and interrupted our conversation to tell him what a tremendous job he did representing BP. So
Good. Awesome.
I'd just like to say to the other board members that this weekend is the Lineman's Rodeo. And if you've never attended, it's quite a show to see see the linemen in action. There'll be teams there from all over the United States. It's out at the Wyandotte County Park at the Pole Yard where they have
Behind the
behind the Agricultural Hall of Fame.
By Sandstone.
And it's amazing. If you haven't been there, and it's amazing to go out and see all the linemen at work and doing their job. So
If you come out, we'll have a tent sort of on the southwest corner of the yard, big flag. So
what time is it Saturday?
about 7 o'clock. in the morning.
Oh, yeah, I'll be in Chicago. We're flying back though that day, but I'll be back in time for a picnic.
It starts, they have the ceremony, the opening ceremony is early. And then, but it goes on probably till 2-ish. 10 to 2 is a great time, 10 to 2 is a great time to be there. Okay, that's all. I just want to bring that up. So
I'll be there. I don't have much. We met with, or I met this morning over at City Hall with Mayor, Commissioner Burrows, David Johnston, Chelsea Chisholm, JD, and Greg Kendall. And so just a general economic development sort of update. They had a couple questions about things we were doing, but mainly it was all stuff for Chelsea and Greg. I didn't participate, but about 3 or 4 minutes. So they did, however, Greg has some interest in from another company that's based out of Buffalo to interested, I think, in some property in northwestern Wyandotte County. And they have arranged for some folks to come tour their existing facility. And they've asked me if I would go. I'm trying to see if it'll work with my schedule. It's probably gonna be 50-50 because it's next week, but that's good. They continue to find different people that are interested in coming to the county, so. And then outside of that, I think today our new IVR went live, so big thanks to Jerry's team and Abby's team for all the work that's gone into that. We've had an uptick in customer just wait times and complaints and due to a number of things, but hopefully that's gonna help reduce some of that. We had 3 customer care reps hit the phones on their own this week, so we were down 50% of the workforce. Been training some folks, and then we've got some folks on some medical leave, so they've been operating with 5 or 6 folks where they normally have 14. So this week they should be back up around 8 or 9, and the following week back up around 12 or so. So hopefully between those new folks hitting the phone, the IVR coming live, it's going to help us a lot. That new IVR does have some Spanish and Hmong capability, which is a large number of our callers. That should help too. There's also a different callback in the queue feature that's nice. And then there's ability for customer to do a survey at the end so we can tell where we're missing the mark. So, but that's really all I have for anything.
Let the record reflect that Senator Haley is now here. Anybody else have any updates? Once, twice, 3 times. Let's go to the next. 2026 budget.
Yeah, we've got a member of the team assembled here today, and so we're gonna go through the revenue fees, capital spend and staffing. So you all know Randy and Andrew, they're do fantastic work, and they put this together, and the other division heads and their respective folks will do their report outs, but we'll try to be as efficient as we can and leave some time to have some questions. Randy?
All right, thank you. So this is pretty similar to my presentation last year. My goal is to kind of just give you a little flavor of some of the things that goes on the revenue side as far as billing goes. And also a little idea of where the trends are heading or where I see the trends heading for next year. And in the end, how that all calculates into the dollars and cents, but you can just let's spend on capital and the O&M side. So next slide. So just a real quick refresher. On the electric and the water, there's really 4 components to each one. There's a base rate component, which on the electric side, I'm on the top left side, which comprises of your customer charge, your energy charge, and your demand charges for your commercial and industrial accounts. That constitutes generally about 50 to 55% of the bill in that bucket right there. The ERC bucket, which is for fuel and purchase power costs, usually represents about 1/3 of the bill. That, it makes up our coal cost, our natural gas costs, and our purchase power cost. And in addition to that, there's our ERC reserve that we're recovering through that as well. The 3rd bucket is our environmental surcharge, or we call it the ESC. That recovers some of our capital costs related to environmental mandates that are dictated to us from governments or EPA. And that 4th bucket is pilot sales tax. So similar on the water side, there's a customer charge. That's based on demand. That's based on the size of the meter, so it's kind of like a demand charge as well. The bigger you go up that meter size, the bigger that customer charge can be. there's a commodity charge in that second bucket, which is the actual cost of the water, the physical price of the water. And on some accounts, there's a fire protection lines, which we use on the commercial accounts. And there's pilot and sales tax as well, on commercial accounts. So just running through some of the major components that go into the revenue that make up the revenue forecast. ERC, which is our fuel and purchase power. For next year, we're projecting a 4.1 cent average ERC for the year. That includes the ERC reserve that I just mentioned, which is about $1.5 million a quarter, $6 million annually. So comparing the 4.1 that we're projecting for next year compared to the past 8 quarters, we're a little over 4 cents. So a little bit higher, but we're right in line with what we've seen the past 8 quarters. Next slide. So that third bucket that I mentioned is the environmental surcharge. That gets recovered through all of our classes. Some classes it's based on a kilowatt hour, some classes it's based on a kilowatt or a demand charge. So really the message here is going up next year about, I don't know, 70,000. Not a lot, so it's really flat. We're in this flat period from 2022 to 2027, 28. It's gonna max out in 29, and then it's gonna start trending down out to 2045. So that's kind of the shape of the curve as it sits right now. So I don't anticipate any increase in the environmental surcharge unless there's a reconciliation difference between how we projected 2025, which would roll into 26. Next slide. So just looking at a breakdown of the bill, just a real quick breakdown of the bill. Really, the reason I presented this to you was because the UG lowered the pilot. One went from 10.9 to 9.9. And just to show you the impact of that, it's about $1.25. An average bill. So this average bill represents a customer that has 809 kWh, and I'll show you why I generate that number and what that number means and the significance of that number. So just running down through the bill, if you want me to, you got a customer charge, the energy charge, you get your ERC and your environmental surcharge, and you can just kind of see how that breaks up in the bill. How much of the bills covers your base rates and how much of it's your ERC and your environmental surcharge and the UV pilot. Any questions?
Yeah, I'm just looking at the bill and seeing how much more I need to get closer to the average.
So
The customer charge, how often how's that determined and how often is it changed?
So when we do a rate hearing, when we go through the rate study, we have costs on the O&M side that it's usually billing costs, a lot of those customer charges. They get funneled into that bucket to be recovered through the customer charge. So that's how that kind of the postage, billing, all those type of things are get allocated to that bucket, and that kind of sets that rate.
I noticed it occasionally has increased, and I don't remember the board ever voting on it or anything, so, but that explains it, how.
Yeah, the last time we did it, it was over 30 is what it said it could be recovered at, which was the cost indicated, but we've been, cognizant of that, and so we don't really want to jump it. We just kind of want to stair step it up. So that's the thought there.
Question. On the ESC, if hypothetically we added a couple gigantic new customers, would that change the payment schedule or get there faster?
No, it won't change the payment schedule. What would happen would the amount you would pay, the pie would get sliced up
Sure.
more. So hopefully that means the existing customers would pay less.
That was the answer I was hoping for.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We're still gonna have to pay the 17.6, but it means your share of it on that chart there may not be $8.85 or maybe $6 if it's.
So the annual amount we pay, BPU pays would stay the same. It would just come from a much larger base.
That's right. Next slide 6 and 7 are related to each other. This is that 809 that we generated, and this is vertically, you got your months. January is month 1, December is month 12. This is the average usage for each one of those months, each year. And when we take the total average, it's 809 for the whole 12-month period for the past 12 years. Last year it was 808. So we went up 1 kWh from this year. So it's really hard to move that number. So it just represents the, when people, a lot of people say their bills, they use 1,500 or this, that, and the other. If you look at the average over the whole year, it's a little over 800. Next slide is just a graph of that. That first slide before, and it just kind of sees the curve. Really what I'm trying to show here is the curve between the May and the August and how that the low point is and that high point, and that kind of aligns with the cost of the utility that we see on the transmission and the cost in those summer periods. Next slide. So just getting into the trending and what we're seeing, and I'm going to go through the residential, commercial, industrial, and the school categories here. What we do is we plot every one of those 13 years for each one of those months. We plot them on a graph. And we figure out where that is, and then we make a projection on where we're going to be, what we think for this year. Some of it's regression, some of it's just looking at the past, 3-4 years trend. And we come back and look at it and see what it looks like. And if we think that's kind of makes sense, we go with it. And then we calculate rates. We apply the rates to those billing units to calculate what the revenue is going to be. So long story short, we're kind of at the upper end of the curve on the residential category. I mean, we are seeing some growth. Most of it's in the apartment area. That general sector of the, been a lot of growth there. So, but it's consistent and it's really the message I'm trying to. Next slide. Looking at the load just in a graph form, we're at 608,000 megawatts projected for the year, a little bit higher than we projected last year. But by no means not as high as we were in 2018 actual, which was a very, very warm year. So we're kind of inching up, but cautiously inching up. Next slide. So the commercial trend is a little flatter. This graph is in the residential trend. We don't quite see that big dip from May to August. This has kind of been, I'm not sure about where commercial's going next year. We're seeing some, I want to say recession, but we're seeing some slowdowns in some areas. So we've kind of been some cautious in some of our projections. So as a result, you're seeing us kind of at the bottom of those data points. And so we looked at that and we thought that was fair in what we thought. So that's kind of what we're going with at this point.
We did get some news, Randy can update you on from a couple of our large users. Yeah, it's down, and I might be getting ahead in the presentation.
Yeah, I'll talk about it in the industrial area, and it impacts commercial too, so. So next slide is just that similar bar graph, what 911,000 megawatts estimate for the 2026 category. It's a little higher than we were last year. And, but overall, the message here is that's lower than what we were in 2013, 14, 15, 16. And this is kind of a downward trend a little bit. I don't want to say it's not going to keep not down, but it's lower than it was in previous years. So, next slide. And industrial, and I think Jeremy kind of alluded to, GM we've had some news there that they're. And then.
They're coming back slower than we initially estimated, and what they initially forecast, right? And so we're seeing some news out of General Motors that will probably delay some of that return of load. We do see some load coming back, but not to the extent that we thought a year ago.
I think they pushed out some of their, they were gonna make their EV, Bolt, yeah, and I think they pushed that down some, and not really coming into play until later in the second quarter of next year, so we had to make some adjustments on that, and in addition, Certainty notified us, I don't know, a couple weeks ago that they were closing down one of the lines until next June, so that's a pretty big impact. We're not sure what that's gonna look like exactly until we get some more information, but so we made some adjustments to that. So as a result, our commercial and industrials are lower and we're kind of at the tail end of our curve on the industrial plot, so and that's the reason why. Any questions? So looking at adding all that up for the sector, we're at about 500,000 megawatt hours for the year. Similar to commercial, we're kind of lower than we were, in 16, 17, 18, 19 of those years are kind of not getting back to those 2015, those higher years that we had, 10, 11 years ago. And lastly, last major category, schools. And we've seen some growth here in this area. We've seen some new square footage, new buildings being built. And I think that's translated into some growth. We're in the higher trend on this curve. We're, project that to continue into next year. Schools, the load for schools is very consistent. And generally they're, a good customer because they're closed in the summertime. You don't need the load, and in the wintertime, they're around. So, and a lot of times, in that winter break area, they're also offline too, with loads sometimes come down. So they're more active in our shoulder periods. So it's a positive thing for them to interact that way. Last slide. For the schools is, looking at 84,000 megawatt hours for the estimate for 2026. And then, so we sum it all up, we throw it into let the magic happen, and this is what comes out. I'm gonna read them to you, but we're up a little bit overall in our energy cells. Some of that's directly related to our residential and commercial. Commercial, I'm not 100% sold yet on what's going on with some of the latest news that we got, but that's what we're going with at this point, which just means we got to be flexible on the O&M side. If something doesn't, you're gonna have to be able to react to that. So we're gonna be a little bit lower than what we had for our 2024 actuals by about $4 million.
Yeah, why are the schools showing lower since you determined that it was gonna be?
Well, that was the budget last year. I don't know. I can look it up and see what that has.
It's growing, I was wondering why that would be lower and not higher, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Efficiency.
Efficiency, yeah.
You will have some of that because some of these new buildings will be more efficient. So, it just depends on if some of those older facilities, how they're utilized. I can go in and look, specifically at maybe some of the public schools. It's a little harder on the private schools to figure out, but,
Thank you.
Henry, can we get the data for, 22 and 23 for this as well on the electric estimate. And I'll ask for the same for the water, please. Thank you.
I'll just,
And I'm sorry, I mean the actuals,
yeah,
those years.
sure.
Thank you.
What I'll do is I'll send it to Jeremy and they can forward it out to you.
Thank you.
I saw that with the highway lighting, I saw that a lot of the lighting that we're doing is to be more efficient. Is that had a lot to do with the highway lighting as well?
Well, some of that, yeah, and some of it, yeah, we're going to LEDs, is that, and those have a little different burn hours on them. As far as how they are, the burn hour calculation's a little different. So, and they've been consolidating and they've been auditing their, so how that works is, when they put in lights, those aren't metered. So those are generally billed based on a calculation in the billing system and it changes by the month because of the daylight hours. Some day, in the wintertime, it's more burn hours than in the summertime. But so there's no meter. So a lot of times they'll go out and they'll audit their lighting, and sometimes lights are taken out of service that don't get reflected in the billing. And then they'll come back and tell us, hey, we took, 50 lights out of here and here and here, and then we go out and check and make sure, and then we update the billing. That happens. Yeah. Next slide. So just on our water cells are real flat and very consistent. Fairly easy to project the revenues on them. Historically, we've done a pretty good job of hitting the numbers pretty close. The only thing really going on here is, we're losing some wholesale revenue. We've lost some over the last 4 or 5 years. Some of the wholesale customers have changed the way they utilize BTU. And that's really, and then, the other thing that's gonna impact is we had a rate increase last year, which wasn't fully reflected in this year's numbers, so you're gonna see a full year of that in the numbers. So, next slide. I'm just looking at the number of bills, I'm adding a couple hundred new customers overall to that says 402, that's the average. But if you look at the 25 to 26, there's and that's what, most of that's gonna be in the residential area, seeing some losses in commercial. And no change. And next slide. And likewise, on the electric, this is our water numbers. We're up about 1 million overall, all that's directed towards the full year, the rate increase that we had. That went into play in July. So last year, so that's full years reflected in 26. That one was half a year in 25. And that's pretty much sums it up. Oh, just a summary, just to look and see overall what's going on. Just to reiterate, our industrial sales, I talked about, we're seeing a couple key customers that are indicating some slowdowns. Commercial sales are softening, kind of early contraction period, possibly. Environmental surcharge is flat next year. ERC is relatively flat for next year. There's no rate increases in any of these numbers. Our overall water sales are really stable. That's going to be influenced by whatever happens with some of our industrial customers. Could be a little lower. Our wholesale revenues on the water side are turning down, and our residential water sales are very stable. With that, I'll entertain any questions that you might have, or I'll let you get on to the next part of the presentations.
No questions. Thank you, Randy.
Thank you, sir.
You should have this packet in front of you. I think we're gonna kind of co-op this presentation. Probably Andrew a little bit and the rest of the department heads to sort of give their walk through their projects and what they're proposing. And then I think you probably gonna maybe meet somebody you haven't met yet tonight. So with that, Rob, if you could go to the next slide, please. This is kind of the main objectives or criteria for what we want to achieve through the budget process. And really is, you know, you heard us talk about a little bit with the strategic plan update and different things is there you see the customer care and the top priority, always looking to add efficiencies, system hardening, system reliability, which really feeds into not only customer satisfaction, you know, reduce overtime, you know, costs for infrastructure, but plays a big part too in our economic development piece when we, you know, get folks wondering about our community and how our systems operate. That system reliability piece is big. And then, you know, through just different types of investment in technologies and tools and all sorts of things, we're always looking to how can we reduce our costs so that we're trying to remain as flat as we can throughout the period that we go between asking for rate adjustments and things. And so we have a lot of information that goes into it. Andrew's team does a lot of work. The rest of the team, the chief officers, the executive directors do a lot of work. And so we get to hear and see what we're proposing by a lot of different people tonight. So next slide, if you would, Rob.
Okay, electric supply, this is gonna be our firewalls that have come to life. We have our enterprise firewalls at our primary and backup control center that establish our electronic security perimeter for the control center, not medium impact assets. So that's gonna be our firewall replacement for compliance with all of the CIP3 security standards. And then we have 11 substation firewalls that will be replaced. They're also end of life. The substation firewalls are associated with the low impact facilities that it's an electronic access point for the data that we get from the network RTUs. So the RTUs that we get information from the field dumps back into our EMS system, has to go through that firewall and be protected in order to comply with CIP 5.
That's to be completed soon or?
Yeah, is that compliance? in
It's all compliance, yeah.
26? I mean, has to be done.
Yeah, and this is just ongoing. It's something everywhere. We don't have any problem getting firewalls, which we're not at any risk of being out of compliance. We just need to make sure that we still have the support for the firewalls from the vendor, and so that's kind of where the end of life risk is coming in. So they're definitely becoming obsolete. So we're gonna upgrade the firewall and replace those. So you've got the medium impact stuff at the control center and then the low impact at our substations. So that's what this electric supplies only project.
Their big whopping one capital project this year in the electric supply group, which is not uncommon for them. They usually only have, you know.
We don't just want to be in compliance, we want to be.
We want to be safe. Next up, Don will go through quite a bit. Don, you know, typically Don and Darren, they have probably more capital projects than anybody, and the unit has ran a lot more lately, and so we discover all kinds of things, but also keeping in mind the facility and the CTs as well.
Yeah, I'll just add too, you know, a lot of the amount of generator assessment we did in 2024. So we, you know, filled through that report and just trying to get the plant Again, it's ran really well all year, but there are some things that, as we go through here, some of these things that we're replacing are more than 40 years old. So the DCS, the first one, the 1.5 million, that is something that isn't that old. That's the control system for the plant that was put in the early 2000s. So that's basically the computers and the controllers that operate the plant. And just like any computer or that type of equipment, every so many years, usually in like a 4 or 5 year cycle, that something like this gets done and needs to get done to keep that system reliable and keep up to date on everything. What will happen is that our vendor that supplies that system will stop supporting it if you don't keep up with the different levels of update. So you could end up with a system that you don't have to go on to call when it breaks down. Next one is a big one. It's the spare GSU transformer. So this was identified in the generator assessment. And that $1 million is really just a down payment. Right now in the 5-year plan, I have $6 million in there. We will do an RFP, and I would hope that the 6 million is, again, we can dial that in the years going forward. But this is a single point of failure for the unit. This is something that is over 40 years old. CT2 recently had this same piece of equipment fail. We were lucky enough to have something that we could replace it with, but if this were to fail, it would probably be a 3 to 4 year lead time to get this back. It used to, 5-10 years ago, these would have been like a year type lead time. And so this has become more important as the plant's aged. And very common in the industry for a baseload plant to have a spare transformer. For example, too, Dogwood is going through the same evaluation. Dogwood actually, ways they're set up, they have 3 GSUs and they're all fairly similar. So they'll buy 1 spare that will cover all 3 of their GSUs. So it's a big number. It's a big piece of equipment and it's something you buy and you hope you never use. A little bit of an insurance policy. The next one, the AQC transformer. This is a bus tie. This gives us a little more redundancy. In the case of one of our smaller transformers failing, this will allow us to make some tie-ins, do some switching, and be able to continue to operate the plant with 1 transformer out. The next few projects are fairly straightforward, just replacing existing equipment that's end of life or is shown to be, unreliable or getting more unreliable with age, and be better to replace it than to continue to fix it. So that really explains the blowers, the classifier piping replacement, the CDS reactor structural and liner repair replacement, and the plow feeder upgrades. Plow feeder is another thing that's over 40 years old. The fire protection tank is a little different. That's a refurbishment. So we will rework that tank. It won't be a direct replacement. MCC load center replacement. These are old MCC is motor control center. So these are the starters that start the equipment. And again, here we're just rolling through equipment that is aged and needs to be replaced. Hydrogen dryer is another one that is over 40 years old, and we're looking to replace that. Relay upgrades, going through and changing with what used to be mechanical relays to Schweitzer relays. Control valves are really placeholder we have in most of the time. We just go through the valves and replace a handful or whatever needs it every year. The bus duct inspection and overhaul. This is the bus duct that runs between the generator and the GSU. So that occasionally needs to be gone through and very important piece of equipment, and need to make sure we're staying up with the maintenance on that. Next one is air heater. That should be baskets, air heater baskets, not blankets. But these are a giant heat exchanger in the air duct. And these are an item that maybe every 10 years they get replaced. We inspect them in most outages and they start to corrode and fall apart and just need replacement. The natural gas igniters, this is a project that, again, if we continue to do it, it'll be a lot more than this 200,000 number. This is more just an evaluation or a study, an engineering study to look into it. What this would do is right now the coal plant starts off of diesel. This would replace those diesel igniters with natural gas igniters. So we use a lot of diesel every time we start up and every time we switch a mill. Take a mill on or take a mill off. As an example, look back at last year, having natural gas instead of diesel would have saved us $2 million. So it's be a project that if the numbers look right, it'd be something that would pay itself off fairly quickly. Common project.
So you're saying which is more expensive, natural gas or the
The
diesel?
natural gas is.
It's cheaper.
Just one common project is out in our coal yard. This was a big area that the generator assessment looked at and saw a lot of need for work in this area.
That is, unless it's 20 degrees below zero, all the pipes are frozen. And then the cost of natural gas goes crazy.
These two projects on CT4, this control system upgrade is a little bit like the DCS upgrade we talked about before, but this is a complete replacement of the whole system. This system is original to the unit. It's 20 years old. That's a long time for a control system to be in a unit. So definitely time. We definitely got our money out of this one.
Don, is that something too that feeds into some of the, that, police team has to report, and it just maybe you can take some of that from a manual process to an automated process? Or is that a different control?
I think that's a different control upgrade. Primary and secondary nozzles, these are just spare fuel nozzles and diesel nozzles for that gas turbine. So another set of parts here that just has us more reliable. Again, a long lead time item that if we had a failure, it would take a long time to get the unit back. This is on CT2 and 3. This bus work reconditioned. This is the conductors between the generator and the GSU. Just going through and we'll probably do a full replacement of these. These are aging, and right now we actually, with the spare transformer we moved in, we're running just basically the temporary solution with some cables instead of the official bus duct. Thank you. Quindaro levy improvements. This is a project we have in here every year. This is a payment we are required to make to the Corps of Engineers to keep up with the levy at Quindaro. And then the Dogwood capital expense, that is our portion of Dogwood's overall capital budget next year.
Is that higher than normal? It seemed.
It does fluctuate a little bit. Still have years where it's probably maybe our share is less than $1 million.
Yeah.
So they're probably a large project that they're doing.
Depends on their maintenance cycle, like you said, the years of what they're doing at the facility.
But I can find out specifically what they're doing, because that's, 17, that's our 17%, so it's a pretty large number.
Security running kids, just.
And as far as funding, the new bond, $1 million, that's for the GSU, and the rest will be in cash. Any questions on electric production projects?
It's probably way oversimplified, but I know you've said a decent number of the things were items that were flagged in that study. Is it fair then to say, like, for this year or maybe a handful of years, we'll see a little bit higher capital costs because there are things that's flagged and then that would taper down? Or is this, are we still, I mean, I realize it's just an old facility, so there's going to be rolling costs regardless.
I think it will maybe trend off a little bit, but again, we have something else come up there that we need to look into too. So I think generally for a full plant that size, it's very reasonable capital budget.
And operations have been much much stronger this year than we've seen in recent years. And so that continues to drive some of that maintenance side of it on that near facility.
This project, Andrew has been working on for a long time, so I know he's excited to talk about it. It's got a big price tag, but it's also got some relief in it and a really great community impact piece. So I just wanted to thank Andrew. He's been working on this a long time. Finally got us to a point where we think it's reasonable to bring it forward. So he can surely describe it a lot better than I can.
Yeah, as Jerry mentioned, we've been having these conversations for multiple years at this point. So hoping to bring this project forward, both because we need additional generating capacity. We have some tax credit expiration coming up. We also have some, say, tax credit associated with lower income project expiring as well. And so I think now is the right time to bring this forward. If you guys agree, and again, we're talking about bringing up to 10 megawatts of owned solar here locally to Wyandotte County. So these facilities would be placed within Wyandotte County. You cannot size larger than 5 megawatts as part of this project. So we would anticipate likely doing 2 projects if we were lucky enough to get this forward. We do expect up to a 60% tax credit. So there is the standard 30% tax credit, the 10% domestic tax credit, and then a 20% low-income community project tax credit. And so what that means is out of that 20.9 million that we're expecting that price tag to be on that 10 megawatts, we'd expect about $12.54 million to come back from the federal government. So that we are now eligible to receive that through the mechanism that the federal government set up, because we don't normally pay taxes. So this would be a tax return for us that would return us $12.54 million. As part of this project, going after that 20% additional tax credit, that low income project. But what that means is we have some responsibilities as part of that. And so the BPU would be required to reserve 50% of the net savings from that project. So essentially all of the costs, the debt, O&M, insurance, all of those costs, minus the value of that energy that's getting produced, would result in a net income piece. And 50% of that net income piece, we would be required to provide back to low-income households. And we would likely do that through qualifications that the state currently covers today, whether that be LEAP or some other mechanism to qualify, residential customers as being low income. And so we would return those funds back to those homes through on-bill credits. And so as part of this project, if we are lucky enough to bring on 10 megawatts of solar in this project, we'd expect that would generate between $600K and $1.2 million annually in funds returned back to those households. And so it is a pretty big number. We do expect this project, even with that $600K to $1.2 million getting returned, likely about a 9-year payback on this project. And so we think it's pretty reasonable. It will require debt to go after that 20.9, but we're also already considering debt for other projects, whether it be EOP, water, production, all of those things. So now it's probably the time to go after this additional piece of debt if we're going to do that. And so anyway, I wanted to bring that to you guys as an alternative or an option for you guys to consider for the 2026 budget. So that's all I have. Go ahead, Steve.
What happens after the 9 years?
So the 9 years is just, it effectively is the earnings from the solar facility has paid us more than the cost of that facility will be. So nothing magical happened. It's just that we've received more funds than we paid out after 9 years. We would likely take this debt. We could either take a shorter debt, but we'll probably take a longer debt, 20 or 25 years probably on this project. It likely has a solid 25 to 30 year lifespan. And so we'll look to utilize some land that we either already own or that we partner with other projects on. So,
I'm going to ask if there's not any outside money at all available to us, any grant money that.
there is zero grant money. You may be familiar with the Solar for All program that I pulled my hair out
Yep.
for. And there are currently some groups suing the federal government today to reinstate that Solar for All. And we did receive some notification now at this point, a year and a half ago, that the Kansas fell within their service territory, I'll say, for that Solar for All. But they were only considering, I'll say, residential rooftop at that time as part of that project. So if that came to fruition, we would still go down that path with them. But right now, it does not appear that the federal government will release those funds because that's what they've determined already. So unless this lawsuit turns into anything, that program has been ended. So. Go ahead.
I know there's probably several different factors in this, so I don't expect you to have a number off the top of your head, but if at some point is it possible to get a very, very rough estimate of what the per household credit would look like?
Yeah,
I know
so
it depends on how big you make that.
that's exactly right. So it really depends on if we want to limit it to LEAP only, right? And then we say, we know how many LEAP customers we had in 2025, for example, and divide that, I'll say, 600 to 1.2 divided by, 3,000 households, you're like, that's a pretty big check.
Sure.
If we include other groups.
We're talking about just using that qualifier to determine the eligibility. If
Yeah,
you qualified for LEAP, you would be qualified for the credit here. Just not reinventing a qualifier or denominator.
Mhm.
yeah. So standing up the income verification process is expensive and we already have organizations that do it, right? For food stamps or for other reasons. And so LEAP is a program that is the avenue that I was exploring, I'll say, 2 years ago through that process. We can explore other alternatives too, if we want to explore other groups that have different qualification metrics. They all have to fall within essentially 180%, I think, of the federal poverty level, but they all kind of have that similar mindset. So we could utilize other things, but LEAP is kind of the one that I know for certain that we can get the.
Instead of reinventing the wheel, there's already a metric there to track and define qualification.
Sure. Oh, that's helpful. Thank you.
Thank you.
The sheet that just went around is Randy's. We told you customer care was a focus. He turned this around in 10 months. So this is the information that Rose asked about on the actuals.
Well, you may want to check your email because I did ask for something else.
Okay.
Thank you, Randy.
And Darren's here to talk about EOP.
Yes, so our 2026 electric operations capital project, as is pretty typical, most of our capital funding goes to our distribution system. A lot of these projects, should be familiar to you, whole inspection replacement program we talked about a lot that continues to be high priority. A lot of poles out there that in need of replacement. And that's kind of paired with our 15 kV overhead feeder rebuild program. The difference, the pole inspection, was focused specifically on the poles and, going through our system section by section to just improve the overall system. The 15 kV overhead feeder rebuild project is focused on, targeting certain feeders or certain problem areas and rebuilding those where we know we have, a high number of outages or, other problems. Our annual overhead, annual underground construction, as a reminder, those budgets are just for new infrastructure installed by BPU, or upgrades required for new customers, by our service policies. If a new customer wants to connect, our service policies outline what costs we take care of and what costs the customer is responsible for. So those budgets are really just to capture what we're spending on new overhead infrastructure and new underground infrastructure, and they're kind of based on our historicals, what we typically see in terms of new projects. The Piper overhead feeders, that's the second phase of that project. The first phase was the line we've just completed down 118th Street to support some development over there, as well as kind of reinforce the whole infrastructure out there in that western part of the county. And so we completed the first phase at 118th, and then phase 2 will be to tie those feeders back into the Piper substation located off Pleasant Earth on 126th. So we'll be kicking that off. That's primarily just, engineering, design and some material, and then that'll be a multi-year project. The switch improvement replacement, that is focused on kind of building resiliency in our underground system. Adding pad mounted switches to give us new tie points for underground system. That is the advantage of the underground system is it's resilient to storms and weather. But when there's a problem, it takes longer to isolate, longer to repair. So by adding some switches, we're able to get customers back on faster when we do have outages and issues. Similar to that, the Legends underground feeders, that is a similar project to add some switches out there in the Legends area. It's just focused in that area, give us some more switching points and again, build underground system resiliency. So these costs, our electric transformers, electric meters, these are both tied in again with the distribution system. Of course, the overhead transformers, underground transformers, that is all of our new transformers we buy, whether that's for, new customers, maintenance, replacement, whatever. Those costs are down this year. We've talked, those lead times have been extended and costs are up. Costs are still up, but with the lead times now, we're not having to make such large orders to, buy for 2 years in advance. So we have seen those costs drop, which is great. The electric meters, so 2 projects there. The electric meter replacements, that is all of our new meters we buy, whether that's again, new customers, replacement of old meters. As a reminder, we have a department, we test all of our meters on kind of a cycle, and they also have alarming for any issues. So important to test those meters, make sure they're accurate, make sure they're billing accurately. That could be obviously bad for the customer or for BPU or both. So just keeping up on those and replacing them, and that's typically what we plan to spend next year is over $1 million. The AMI gatekeeper upgrade. So what those gatekeepers are is devices collect all that metering data and bring it back for all of our remote, meter reading and billing. Those devices are original to when the system was, put in, assuming they've not been, damaged in some way. They're all pretty much original. So they're, I think, like about 14 years old now. But besides just replacing those, we're putting in the newest version of a gatekeeper, which is going to give us some better integration with our meter data and our outage management system. So give us some more visibility, some better data, and really better outage management when we have those storms and big weather events. So that's really the focus of that project. On the transmission substation side, so we're looking to start rebuild of our speaker substation, which is an older substation located near 635 and Kansas. And that really is kind of like Don was talking about with his GSU. That's really just a down payment for 2 transformers that are going to be needed for that sub. We're expecting about a 4-year lead time, so ordering those transformers now, and then have some other equipment kind of staged in, but we would not be, actually building that substation for probably 4 years, depending on how that comes back. We're anticipating having to pay about 50% of those transformers down to lock in cost escalation that would happen raw materials over those 4 years. Along the same line, the substation transformer replacement, that is ordering another substation transformer. Both those projects, we have our 69 kV system, which is the older compared to our newer 161 kV system. And our newest transformer there is like 40 years old, and they only go up. So, looking to obviously replace the entire substation, and start getting some transformers in order to replace that equipment. If we have one of those fail, it's going to be obviously a pretty serious event that's going to affect a lot of customers. And again, 4 years out for replacement. So, substation breakers is for new breakers. A lot of old breakers, a lot of old substation equipment. We've seen lead times on that extend out to from a year to 2 years, and costs increase on those. So we have some breakers already on order coming in next year. We'll be installing those and placing an order for some additional breakers, which would again be 2 years out. So that'll be that'll be a project we'll be doing a lot of. We have quite a few of those, old breakers that are, 40 to 60 years old. Yes.
Why are these lead times so far out?
I
I
think.
mean, are we still claiming pandemic or where are we on that?
I think it's just.
Nobody make them?
demand in the industry. Not only from us, but probably all these other, loads and customers, trying to come online. But we're kind of seeing that everywhere. Again, we've seen some of the distribution transformers come down, which is good, but the substation equipment seems to only be getting worse. So I think it's a lot of pent up demand, honestly, and not enough manufacturing to keep up.
We get questions from some of the large load developers. They're telling us, well, we don't need your stuff, we have it. So now you've got that whole group of players. with
Why can't they give
money.
it to us?
Well, they'll bring their.
And I mean, sell them to
They'll
us.
bring their own, we still have to have some. But I think that's a new entrant into the market, right? Is they're backed by these, billion-dollar hedge funds and they can go.
I've met them.
They can go buy 10 build slots where before that type of thing wasn't happening. They can go buy 60, 70 breakers or buy the build spots.
Where are these things manufactured?
All over. But yeah, there's several domestic manufacturers and there's several European manufacturers that do.
There are
So-
domestic, did you say there are domestic manufacturers?
And a lot of people probably don't have their own crews and then they depend on these companies to have their own crews to come in.
They're made in specialized factories with this type of equipment. So there's only a few, main players, I guess I would say, but. As Jeremy said, there's the large load customers that are buying on equipment for projects, and then there's, I think a lot of people trying to get into the battery energy storage game. We've had people reach out trying to connect, want to connect to our system, which they, can. But then I think they're also buying some equipment too. So there's like a lot of
Yeah,
demand.
we can use your buying power for these things to get them in quicker, maybe.
Yeah.
We are open as long as they meet all of our spec and standard and safety protocol. I don't think we care if we get it from a manufacturer or they bring it with them on a truck.
So
Whatever's fastest.
when the manufacturing is domestic, do we have all the materials that are needed to build that
Yeah,
transformer? Or
they
are we
essentially
waiting
come-
for,
No, they essentially come
things?
complete and usually, we're turnkey, you just wire jumpers and redoing controls. So it's mostly just, they come complete from the factory and we're putting them on the pad, connecting them. So that's something.
but I mean, is the factory waiting on
I'm not sure.
This and on the.
materials on that?
The big transformers are only made about 3 different places, I think, in the United States. And so when the last one we bought, we send our engineers there to check them
Okay,
at certain points in the build process and make sure, we don't waste. Sometimes time it hits the road and it gets here, it's 3 weeks or 4 weeks because they're so big and heavy and they have
Right.
to take these routes and do all these things and they can't go faster than 20 miles an hour and, the shipping's 6 figures and we don't want to get it here and have a problem and go back. So we try to stay on top of them from order to delivery.
Next project is substation relays. Like Don talked about, kind of is somewhere it's replacing the older mechanical style relays that are 56 years old now with newer microprocessor relays, and it's more reliable protection. It's easier and cheaper to maintain, and you get some additional visibility with those relays. So doing quite a few of those projects, really trying to essentially modernize the protection of our substations and our equipment, and again, you get some additional features and benefits when you do these upgrades besides just, replacing the equipment. Then the last one in this area is the Nearman Monero transmission line. It's going to be a multi-year project. This is for primarily some of the engineering and a little bit of material, but the majority of construction will happen in 2027. And this is, this line was already substantially built, and this is essentially finishing out the last piece connected to those substations. And that's gonna really actually add a lot of reliability to our transmission system, essentially the whole eastern side of the county and all the substations on there benefit from this. And it addresses some compliance concerns that our planning engineer has identified, so that'll be a really good transmission side project for us. That'll see a lot of robustness to the transmission system. And then just general construction projects, our work equipment covers things like line trucks, bucket trucks, and larger equipment our line crews utilize. Whereas automobiles are things like vans and trucks that technicians and other field workers and our crews utilize. The electric operations radio budget is really, we've got a several year project going. We started 2 years ago with upgrading our handheld radio units that our crews utilize. The ones we've had access long enough, they're at end of life. So they're no longer supported by the manufacturer. So if you have a problem, you can't get the parts, you can't make repairs. So we're just kind of phasing in new radios over, a multi-year period and getting our guys the new radios that are supported and we can repair and maintain. The electric operations technology budget, that covers, miscellaneous computers and things like that. But we have a big project in there to our fuel system. We have a software that tracks fuel usage, when the crews fill up trucks. All information is tracked, mileage, fuel usage. And so we're actually moving that, from kind of it's a manual process right now to a cloud-based process. So automate some of that reporting, give us a lot more information, in terms of our usage and just better tracking. So that'll be a really good project for us on our fleet group. Electric operations tools, that is another piece of equipment for our fleet group. We're going to buy our own tire mounter and balancer so we can do all the tire mounting and balance for our own vehicles. Right now, we're having to contract that out, and that gets expensive, especially with the larger equipment. So this will actually save us quite a bit of money in terms of installing new tires and pay for itself pretty quick. And then equipment, that's some miscellaneous just equipment furnishings for our service center, office equipment, things like that. And so
Coffee included with it.
yes, sir. No, not that. That's in the O&M budget. So about $45 million total, just over. Majority though, our cash funded projects, the bond projects are the new transformers for speaker substation and the other transformer we'd like to order.
Cute.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Darren.
And Jody and her team are gonna talk about the facilities across the campuses.
I know some of you in here, some of you don't know me. That's probably my fault. Probably need to come to these more often. So I'll do a brief introduction to me. My name is Jody Frenchette. I'm the Director of Administrative Services here. December 9th will be my 34th complete year at the utility. So I've been here quite a while. Last year, if you guys remember, we combined some departments, some painters, carpenters and that, and developed the facilities department. It fell under me along with, I do document management, the mailroom, the copy supply, and I'm pretty sure that's about it. But anyway, I have one bullet point I'm going to talk about, which is the administrative services technology. That's basically all of the Xeroxes, the machines, our e-form system, our document management system, and just different technology. The biggest project we have this year is we are upgrading our on-base system, the document management system. But with that, when we had joined the facilities, we hired a facility manager. So his name is Bo. He goes by Bo. It's actually Gerald Blevins. He has been with the Army, Navy, his Navy for 22 years, retired. And then, I know that's bad, right? And then my son was in the Army. That's why I went there first. Sorry, Bo. And then in 2006, he started doing facility management in the area, Kansas City area with hospitals. So I'm gonna let Bo talk about facilities.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Evening.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you. As we start, please keep in mind that I'm talking about buildings that are 25 years or older. Please, we're gonna move through these pretty quick. We are hiring a couple of facility maintenance gentlemen, so we will be 2026. And then moving straight into the facilities here at admin. We just finished part of a fire system upgrade for this building. And the final phase of that 137, that's gonna be part of the final phase of getting the dialers put in and getting everything sent over to where it's monitored through our security system. And as far as the security improvements, again, we're talking cameras, connections, things of that nature. You can move over to the next slide, please. Water engineering, one of the big ones there, I set this here. One of the big ones there is gonna be the HVAC units that need to be replaced, they're aging out. Again, most of the buildings, well, again, water engineering has wallpaper, things of that nature that's peeling, that's been repaired. We're gonna be replacing that as well, as part of that. And then the water operations, one of the big ones there at Muncie is a lot of the concrete and dock repairs that need to happen at that facility. They're pretty bad out front of the garage. And that's the second one there at the 270,000. And then the Nearman facility, one of the newer buildings, but still has a lot of asphalt concrete work that needs to get done this year, along with replacing quite a bit of the carpeting throughout the building. Service center, that's a big one. Currently don't have a fire panel in that building. We need to install a new fire panel. There's HVAC number 9, 11, and 12 on the east end that needs to be replaced. The electrical panel upgrade, we'd like to do a survey in 2026 along with an IR scan to give me a better idea of the panels that we need to either upgrade and or install new ones. Again, very old building. Building hasn't been painted in a long time, control joints. The building itself is needing a refresh. Moving on to the power plant out at Nearman. Again, very older building. It needs, control room needs an upgrade. Again, be doing a lot of tests for asbestos in that area as well. Break rooms and locker rooms as well need upgrades. Moving on to ECC, the UPS that they have in place was installed in 1993. They had a pretty bad issue with it a couple of years back. This has been on the capital project, I think, for a while now, but it really does need to be replaced. Control room upgrade. Their stations where their controllers set at or their folks set at are in horrible condition. They need to be upgraded as well. The Halon system in that building, good system, but we have one large tank that needs to be hydro tested, refilled, and then put back into the system. And that is everything for facilities. Any questions?
What percentage of this building is occupied?
Of which one?
This one, 540 minutes.
Oh, good Lord.
I just happened to get off on the wrong floor. I was going to HR, do some paperwork. I got off on 3 instead, and it was just, looked like it was just.
They all look identical, pretty
They
much. But as far as percentage, I couldn't tell you how.
I guess.
Yeah, I'd have to get you. No idea.
I just,
So if you got off the elevators and you looked right there to the left, you probably, all you see is empty cubicles right there. There's a couple of folks on Jerry's team that use some of that. That whole side behind the elevators is completely free.
Right.
Oh,
That's full. That's full.
Yeah, and then
Didn't
there's a
realize you
few
got back
people
in there.
kind of on that, I guess, south side around over there, but that would be the one probably area of this building where the most open space is.
Yeah. Oh, they're all assigned to people, so all those cubicles are.
okay, it just looked like there was, that we might have had some space and I was, wondering
It is.
consolidation or whatever.
It has grown in the 10 months that I've been here. We've built 4 offices in this building, so they are having more people move into it.
Okay. Our budget for capital, these are all capital projects. 3.6 million, which is the same as last year and the year before. I'll point out that all the dollars in this page is application development. This is all the software. I'll get to the hardware next. But roughly $2.8 million of that 3.6 is all with software. Now, just maintenance support is an expense. The hardware, the software purchase and the labor, any contractors we have in here. So about half of all these costs here are the contractor labor. So we're not talking about a lot of software. On the first one there, app dev, we're going to do an engineering portal, which will help out our construction, the engineers in the field, take payments and do a lot of things with the engineers to reduce their workload and to make our developers who are building developments much easier. So the enterprise technology area there is the engineering portal, the first one. The next one is the BI, business intelligence, which is the Tableau tool we have for all of our dashboards. We've got some interesting things we're doing here on more predictions and why you have variances. So it's an interesting tool we've got planned for that. That portal development there is a small amount of dollars. It's really for some of our SharePoint work that we have. Cloud services, it's called that in our capital naming convention, but that is going to be for our timekeeping replacement, the Kronos software that goes out of date next year, no longer supported, purchased by another company. We've got the RFP and all the proposals in yet. We're going to select a new one. It makes life totally better for all the people that use time cards, the finance department, dealing with all of the times. A lot of features and functionality with mobile devices that will be tied into a push button or a card entry system. Our CIS system, Kayenta now, that's the labor and development we work with that old system. That's about 15 years old. So we're looking for an upgrade in future years for that. The electronic document management system is really our SharePoint site, which handles all of the files that we've got. ERP, InterSource Resource, or the next one is interesting is Mass9. See that $400,000 item. That's the Maximo project. What would be a lot more functionality. It's the Maximo Application Suite 9, really nifty tool to help the Maximo users. We do a lot of investment over the years. We did an upgrade a few years ago. We're just finishing up the mobility. That's on another slide. But this thing here is going to be going live next year. ERP is basically our PeopleSoft efforts, which is the software we have for that. And ESB, or Enterprise Service Bus, at $250,000 is largely the contractor cost to support it. The ESB integrates all of the data from all of our systems seamlessly and near real time. It is an integral part of everything that we do in IT. We can't live without it. Wireless mobility is purchasing some iPads, small amount of dollars here for that, but all of the Maximo Mobile project, you use iPads to make their life easier in the warehouses, in the storerooms, and out in the various parts of the plant. General systems there is basically our Fusion, which is our financial systems and the support for it. And the next slide. Human capital management, that is some enhancement and contractor work here to help Dennis's group out and Ashley Culp here with hiring and all the functions that we need to have for the HRIS system, Human Resources Information System. We've got a little bit of money there for mobility. We're finalizing just the remaining parts of that project, which went live this year. So we had the mobility, which are the pads they have in the warehouses. That is going to be going to the various vertical plants. That'll be completed early next year. The QA program for $200,000, or QA program 50,000, is automating our testing protocols. Heretofore, we've only relied upon user testing. So we want to automate this to make sure that we go live, we can go a lot faster, and we check everything with precision and rapidity. So when we move systems from one system to the other, we can test it automatically. Kind of a nifty thing here. Give $2 in there for utility ops. That's basically support of our outage management system. And our engineers work with GIS. Okay. The next part. So we got off of all the software, all the enhancements on the top, application development. Now the network and infrastructure is basically our data center. Key there is a little bit of work in moving things from more analog devices to digital. Desktop and network development is getting new replacement on a 4-year cycle for all of our laptops, our terminals, keyboards, and that sort of thing. And then the final page here, we've got work to do in disaster recovery for development and security. This IVR, interactive voice response, that Jeremy spoke about that went live today. We've got some functions and we're going to continue to enhance that and improve it. I got to hand it to Abby's team and Gabi on that, and my own team here, who went live with this in less than a year. We had an old IVR system that wasn't interactive. It wasn't voice response. This is a new leap here for our customers. We went live, I think, without any hitch today, Abby. And thanks to your team for doing all the testing for that. Mobile device management, a little money spent there on more pads, more functionality. Identity management, third from the bottom, is making sure that when a person's assigned to a new role, a new department, they transfer, everything that they had access to is ceased, and that they're assigned a new role with all of the applications they're authorized to. So we don't have any hiccups about people having access to things they don't need. Finally, we have a little bit of money spent there for that systems and network operations center, which is our SOC, sometimes called a SNOC. Just a few software purchases we want to have there to keep state of the art for our cybersecurity. And then we have virtual desktop deployment that makes the desktops virtual. So that's it for the IT group. I think most all of our major projects that we've done in the last 5 years are completed. Mapping, Maximo, all the things here are largely done. We're just doing a lot of maintenance support going forward. We do have in the future, the next couple of years, replacing our CIS system, Panther system. We spent a fortune keeping that thing up to date. I think a new system will be cheaper, faster, quicker, better for our customers and for all the internal employees. That one there is the big one coming up. Other than that, I think it's steady as we go for the IT department. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you, Jerry.
And rounding out the field.
I did want to hear from Abby on the IVR.
All right,
On the IVR? We get to the end of the.
Just tell us how.
We do that instead of water ops, sorry.
Just tell us what makes it so exciting now that we have this. Tell us what's happening now that wasn't happening earlier.
So Jeremy mentioned so self-service up here. All right. Abby Fried, Chief Administrative Officer. So we went live today with our IVR and it's working really well. So we have self-service options for English, Spanish, and Hmong. Another great feature is now when a customer is holding to speak to a representative, it tells them what the estimated hold time is going to be. And they can make that decision if they want to hold, or they can choose an option to be a callback in queue. And so then they can disconnect and wait for that call back. And so when it's their turn to be transferred to an agent, it'll automatically call them back. So those are some great things. Again, the more automated things are going to be great. Just here, yeah. hold time. Oh, and another great thing is customer surveys. So before, if a customer wanted to leave feedback or speak to somebody about their experience with the agent, they would have to be manually transferred to a supervisor or somebody. This time they can do a survey either over the phone or via text message. We get that information pretty quickly after they've completed that survey. So if there's something that we need to address or anything, we can do that very timely and not let that sit. So those are just a few of the things. As Jerry mentioned, we're looking at some of the other options, but I was very impressed with his team and my team because I honestly did not think we would get this done by the end of the year, and we went earlier and with very few hiccups. So
Awesome. End of the
Yeah.
year was the goal and also it's middle of
yeah,
October.
so we're live, and then as you mentioned,
Actually would have
our
been-
staffing is better. So we should hear and see good things in the service.
It should have been, not should have been, it was gonna be last Thursday and then last bit of checks and things and the team
Mhm.
discovered something and so decided to put it off and not try to do that on a Monday, right? Monday, a lot of different things, challenges occur, so the decision was made to push to Tuesday and it was a good decision.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So if the caller's in queue, they're gonna go into do they know a time on that as well? If they want to call back, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so if you want to call back, it keeps your place in line.
Okay,
You just don't have to wait on hold. And so like if you get something, say for instance, it is a very long hold time and you don't have time to wait, you can request a call back, and then when it would be your time to go to an agent, it'll automatically call you back. Now, if you miss that call, you'll have to start over, but it does
Okay.
give you that opportunity. And so that way, if you need to hang up or do something else, or at least you are prepared at no.
yeah, you have an estimated
It
time.
doesn't go away to some different box to be called back.
That's what I.
It's keeping you where you're at.
Yes.
Calling you back at where you
Okay.
would have been
That
answered.
was
had
my
you stayed.
question.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and those features are things that we did not have before, and even features such as if you're a Spanish or Hmong speaking customer, just checking your balance, you would have to wait to speak to an agent, where now you can do that in the IVR, so it's automatic. So there's things like that that are really gonna help streamline where people won't have to go to an agent in order to get the information they need. It's cool. Yes.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very pleased.
Okay, 26 water operations. I'm Steve Green, Executive Director. The first one, these are our major projects in distribution, about $12.5 million. The first one is the main replacement. That's the EPA grant that we got a few years ago that we're using. Right now, we're up off of between basically 11th Street and 9th Street, replacing main up north. The next project will go into next year. And then we'll start up a project that will be in 18th Street to about 635 in the southern Argentine district, replacing the small main replacement. So it's a very important project for us to try to reduce our main breaks. Distribution system improvements, we have about $500,000 in there. This is an annual project that just takes care of, like we go out and they say we do some main work, main leak or something, and we encounter a sewer or something, that conflict, that we have to work around it and get away from it. These kind of projects pay for that. It also helps pay for, we may have a small main that we've gotten quite a few leaks on, that's a block or two long, that the distribution crews will replace and go through the process. The Central Avenue James project, that's a water main that's gonna take water over to the east side of the Kansas River right there, that ties the Yard project by the old Kemp Arena. So this is gonna take a main over there. Right now, we are having to interconnect with Water One, a small interconnect to feed that apartment building. They're building more, supposed to eventually build more, a couple more buildings. So we're gonna bring a main over there. I think we're also working, going under railroads, we're working with the light side on maybe doing some boring together, so share some cost on that. Valves, that's an annual project that the distribution crews replace valves throughout the system. These valves range from about 1.5 inches up to 16 inch. That work's all done in-house.
And like I said, a valve it could be leaking. It could be old and hard to operate. We have main leaks. It's just impossible to get main leaks, which the water shut down. It extends the time of making repairs. Or they just break. So we'll replace valves throughout the whole season with that project. And the Edwardsville 98th Street improvement, that's a project of a road improvement project. This road has a lot of hills in it. They're gonna cut some hills. It's gonna do a major grading. So we have to put a new water main on that, and it was ready to be replaced. So it's a good time. The I-70 project, that is a team effort with PBI Gordon. We have a water main that runs through their site. And that's kind of a super site from the chemicals and stuff. And so whenever we have to go in there and make repairs, which we do about every couple years, we have a leak in there. And that takes special, we'll have to bring the EPA in. They have to, PBI Gordon, they hire a special firm to come in, they dig it up, get all the soil removed. Then we go in and make repairs, and we go in, it's just really hard. So we come up with a venture on that of splitting the cost to move that water main out of there. This project has been going on for about 3 years, and we just finally got the approval through the KDHE. It's been real hard to get it through the process because of super site, but we finally got the approval. We're gonna move outside the site and feed that water. So we're very excited about that. And then said that's half the cost of what the overall project will be. And then UG, that's an ongoing CIP project when they do different jobs that we have to support because our water mains are in the way. So that's an annual project that we deal with. We never know what the cost is, so we always just do that on average. Fire hydrants, of course, that's how our hydrant program that we replace hydrants that need to be replaced. So we have a great program going with the fire department now. They do the inspections of all the KCK fire hydrants. And our department or our crews do Edwardsville and the area of Johnson County we cover. So every hydrant gets inspected, and then we make any repairs. There was a lot of repairs that go on with a hydrant. They may, a lot of hydrants will work this year, but then next year they come on, there's something wrong with them. So we're continuous to work on them. That's a very long project that we work on. And then the other one is we have $2 million for, again, this was using the KDHE, the state revolving fund, to replace water main, help continuing to place water main, because that is our big infrastructure. And then service replacement. This is replacing a lot of galvanized services that are out there that we have. We still have a lot of services. So we roughly spend anywhere from $500,000 to $600,000 a year on replacing these. And that's an annual project that will continue to go for years and years and years. Next slide, please. These are some of our major projects at the Merriman Water Treatment Plant, about $9.8 million. The water pump rehab, this is one of our collector wells. So those wells are coming up on age. So we have rebuilt 4 of the 8 pumps. Well, this will be the 4th one we rebuild. We'll continue to do these pumps every year until they all 8 get replaced or get repaired. And then that will set us, then we'll get in a normal schedule every few years to do one. We're just trying to get caught up right now. Water basin improvement. This is to paint the east basin of the filters, or where the feed the filters. And this project is our basin. Right now we have the West Basin project going on. This project's has kind of been kicked down the road 5 or 6 years, and it's way overdue. So we're doing the West Basin right now. They take all the metal parts in there and they sandblast down the metal, prime it and bring it back. It just brings back the life of that and extends the life of our basins. So we'll have both of them done by the end of next year and be in good shape for another 12 to 15 years. And then our generator, this is a project, as Darren talked about, long extended lead times. This project we got from FEMA about putting a generator down there to run the plant. And it's just, we've been over 2 years waiting for this generator. It's supposed to arrive late next year. And then we could, and that and the switchgear, and we can get this project will probably go, most of it will happen late third quarter and then probably first quarter 27. And then the other big project down there is our collector well, the lateral lines, the lines that get shoot out underneath the rivers. Those lines, we do annually testing on those. And so they know what kind of draw we can draw out of them. And the well 1 was done probably 8 years ago, 7 years ago. Well 2 is due to have be done. And so we're gonna go in, and that's about a 3-month project. And they'll come in this winter and they'll dewater it. They'll go in into each one of those lines. They send equipment in, they blast it, and they're basically blasting the particles off those. You remember those stainless steel lines? Blast those particles off of it to redevelop life of that. So we can get another 10 or probably 15 years out of it before we have to do it again. We're gonna do collector well 1, and then we're gonna turn around and do collector well 2 next year. So, and then our other stuff that we have to do, this is a kind of our support. This is what supports the crews and stuff, is equipment, transportation. So we have 4 cars, automobiles that will replace between water engineering, water processing, and then the troubleshooting, the meter side of our distribution down there at Muncie. We also have some tool equipment, some more trenching, shoring. We've really, safety is something we really have picked up. So our guys are doing a lot. I mean, I know about every day we are shoring holes up that probably they would have probably not, but the guys have really bought into being safe and going home at night. So we're just gonna spend some more money on some equipment and some more tapping equipment. Next up is our heavy equipment, the dump trucks. We're gonna replace 2 dump trucks and then excavators. Excavators is what digs all the holes for the guys to make the repairs, to do the pipe, lay the pipe. Those machines are running probably on an average, probably 7-8 hours a day with overtime. They are constantly running, and there's about 7 of them within a spare of 8. So they're always running. Major projects from the transmission side, we have inspections. So we're going to start putting more money towards inspections of our transmission mains. So that means we're going to hire a company to come in, and we will go inside the main and still while it's live and do inspections. This first part, we're going to be doing the smart ball, which we send the ball down. It looks like a Nerf ball, a little Nerf ball. They'll send it down in the main. It'll just naturally float through as our water moves through the system, through the transmission main, and it'll listen for leaks. And then they'll come back and they'll spot us within probably 10 feet of where a leak is. And we've done a couple of those the last few years. They're very successful. We'll continue that because we need to put a lot of money in our transmission mains. It's something that has kind of been neglected because we just haven't had the money over the years, but we're starting to put more into. The other one, mains and valves, putting a lot of money towards that, of replacing valves, old valves. These are big valves. These are 24 up to 48. Replacing more valves, and then the mains that we might find leaking, and trying to make a repair to. We've been going over budget the last few years because we've been repairing so many mains, transmission mains that they may just be small leaks, but small leaks turn into big leaks, and big leaks on transmission mains are not good. And then the parallel pump station, that's a project, is another one. It's electrical upgrade. It's the switchgear, replacing the original switchgear in that. That's a long lead time. We've been waiting out for a couple of years, and we're finally going to start the construction actually in the 4th quarter, and it'll roll into next year. And then the transmission main, this is to get some redundancy out west for our transmission main in case we ever have to take our transmission main down for any reason between 91st and 435 Tower, we don't really have another redundant feed out there. So this is gonna give us, it's gonna be a 2-year project, where we finally found the alignment we want. We're gonna get the easements and hopefully start construction in the 3rd quarter. So that's the plan. Next up.
This is a redundant slide, so. Rob,
Yeah, this is redundant.
Well,
All right, on our projects, we're gonna have about 6.7 cash that we're gonna spend. KDHE loan that we have is about 9.5 million. And then the EPA grant for the small main replacement is 4 million. The FEMA grant is about 3.7. That is for the generator. And then we're going to get some future bonding that we're going to need, which for 26 is about 4.2. So grand total of $29 million capital budget. Any questions?
Yeah,
Yep.
thanks, Steve. Going back to, I met with a couple people for one of the projects going on with our subs, Rodriguez. Or
Yeah.
so they were doing the line replacement, and I was trying to approximate how many of those do we have projects going along? Are you able?
How many projects?
Projects, yeah, they were doing the replacement. This is over just north of Quindaro.
Yeah, we're doing a lot of work with them.
It's
We
finished
have a-
one on many.
Yeah, so we did the south side, started the year out the south side. It's pretty much, we're at like 99% being done. The only thing left over there is restoration. Now we're in the north end up here, north of us here. And just going in replacing old, small galvanized water mains. And what we do is we're getting more reliant for the customers not to have leaks being shut off. And it's also bringing fire protection into those areas that had small mains.
So is there a notice that are given, some of the people that called did?
Yeah, we send out notices.
And by the way, he was really nice.
Yeah, we send out notices.
There.
We send out notices, before construction started, we send, to every house a letter saying what we're gonna do. We also give notices on outages. We try to do 48 hours notice for outages. As long as they have good numbers, through our system, they'll be notified.
And the approximate percentage that we sub out through.
Through that project, majority of it is subbed out. That's a project that's way too big for our crews with all the main leaks, all the valves replaced, all the services replaced. So that's always going to be subbed out. We do a little bit of water mains. We'll do about 6 or 7 water mains a year of projects. They're very little. That our crews can handle. We can't handle that kind of, so we're replacing a lot of water main with this project.
Finally, where along that would that be reflected in terms of budget, what we do with the sub through Rodriguez?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's
all
all
integrated.
it's all in that like that 4 million. Now Rodriguez has multiple contracts. Our contracts all get bid and they bid on them and they win them. So they do new development, they have the new development, so they have several contracts they work on this for us. But all contracts are bid, so yes, and we have to, that's just the part.
Most of that work, David, is gonna be in the aged water main replacement, $4 million.
Yeah, so like next year, they'll finish up that area and then move into another area. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Steve.
Yes, sir.
Steve,
And Andrew, I don't know if you want to come up and round it out.
Yeah, just a little bit. This is really just, a representation of where the funds come from, what we're looking at. And so each group here talked about, the type of dollars that they're looking at spending, what projects exist. One of the things you heard several times here is a new bond. So we are looking at financing a new debt structure here in 2026 that would go through the street. And so we would need your approval at the budget time, and we would need your approval at the time we went out for debt. And so some of those projects, Water has several projects, EOPS has several projects. Again, the one solar project, all of those would be funded through debt. We'd look at approximately $83 million. If all of those projects went through, again, 12.54 of the solar project would come back, so it'd be pretty short on that project there. But really, this is just to outline where we're at on the project side, where the funding comes from, those type of things. So just as a general rule, you know, the cash portion is stuff that comes straight through the rate process itself. Water specifically has several funding sources, whether it be the EPA grant, the FEMA grant, KDHE loan process. And some of the concern with the water side is we don't know that those KDHE dollars are going to be there going forward. And so we want to make sure that we continue to improve that water system. And so they will be included in that debt issuance if we go forward with that debt issuance. But about, if you looked at it from 2024 project list on the cash side, we're up about 4.5% from 2024. We did ratchet that back down in 2025, and that was really driven by lower revenue volumes. As Randy said, we do expect slightly higher revenues, about 1% higher. But we have several different projects that need to get done. And these are all long-lived assets, right? And so really the mechanism of using funding and debt issuances is really to let those consumers that utilize the value of those assets to pay for those assets versus everybody today paying for those. And so it does help defer rate increases and those type of things because it, again, it allows us to take advantage of what our funding capital structure that allow those, I'll say, individuals to consume that asset to pay for that asset over time. So these are generally 30, 40, 50-year assets like Don and different people were saying on their front. So that's what we're looking for. And so we hope to move forward with that in 2026.
Andrew, where does BPU's cash reserve sit today?
So we're slightly less than 100 days.
What are we at?
So the goal is
50,000-ish per day?
Oh, it's about $600,000 per day. So the goal is 120 days, right? So we're not where we wish to be. As Randy said, we're collecting, you know, $500,000 a month on the ERC reserve fund. Revenues aren't coming in where we thought they would be 12 months ago. And so we don't anticipate a great deal of increase in cash outside of, I'll say this debt issuance will raise our cash balance. And it'll get spent over the next 5-ish years. But we also, again, we believe General Motors is investing in the plant. We expect that revenue to come back. CertainTeed is investing in that plant. We have some other projects that you've heard about, data centers and otherwise, that we anticipate to likely move forward in 27, 28 timeframe. So
revenue streams could be very different.
Yeah.
28, 29.
yeah, sorry.
Do we have any, I know we're looking at potentially adding some bonding here. Do we have any bonding that's being paid off in the near, like, where does this compare total amount bonded, you know, if we adopt these things?
Yeah,
A year from now?
yeah. So we do have, we have different bonds that I'll say smooth out and decline over time, right? And so we would structure this structure to make sure that we smooth that across time. So we can do, I'll say, an interest only, a prepay with that 12.54 to make sure that there is no big jump in debt that causes additional, I'll say, pain in the early years, right? So we'll smooth that out across time to make sure that it feels unnoticeable as a general rule. And these will, again, will pay for 30 to 50-year assets in general. So
Thank you.
Can we get could the board get a copy of our existing bond schedule?
yep, we can do that.
Some year that there's a big drop off that's coming up from now.
Yeah, so water has their own and then electric has their own, right? And you will see that drop off here at the end of the decade. I think it dropped off a little bit. And so likely the way this debt would be structured is that would fill in that gap, right? And then it extended out probably 25 to 30 years. So we'll look at what that mechanism looks like and how we want to structure it based on, you know, interest rates and all of those things. But we are seeing reasonably favorable interest rates. We are still hopeful that interest rates come down another 25 to 50 basis points, but before that point. But we'll see what that looks like. But yeah, we can get our debt structure.
So are you looking at approximately $30 million bond issue?
So we're actually looking at an $83 million bond, assuming all the projects that you guys talked about tonight. So this is, you're just looking at 2026, right? So
Right, the column there that says 2026 bond, 29.8.
that's correct. So that would pay, so effectively $30 million in 2026 would be paid for out of that bond. And then there'd be 2027 projects, 2028 projects, 2029 projects.
Some of the projects are the life of the 5-year capital plan. This is only representative of 2026 spending.
So for some reason, water wants to continue to spend next year and EOPS and all these other groups. So now that's just the nature of the beast, right? And so we'll go out for debt one time. So the last time we went out for debt was 2020. So we don't want to go out for debt every single year to pay for certain projects. And so this would be projects that are likely to be funded in the next few years. So.
Not to pay off previous.
So we will look at that before we move forward with any debt issuance. If there is a structure that essentially has a net present value of paying off previous debt, that will get rolled into whatever we decide to do. But this $83 million is effectively new projects. If we find value in paying off previous debt, then we'll bring that back as well. And so there is a chance that there's some value, I'll say net present value, in moving up that debt and refunding it and then putting new debt forward. So we'll bring that back to you as we explore through that, if that's something you guys are open to. So
just to go back, Andrew, to some of the other slides earlier, like the community solar or the solar project. So the 83 would be less the 12.5, right? We would get that back.
Right. So effectively, we would expect, I'll say, depending on how we structure it, but likely, year 1, year 2 payment would have a large prepayment that we would pay essentially that 12.5 back into that debt, right? So it feels like 83, but after 1 year, it's actually 70, right? That type thing. So it does decline pretty significantly if we move forward with that project. So. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Andrew.
Ashley Culp's here to go through the anticipated staffing number collection.
So here's kind of the overview of what we're going to be going over this evening. Is first we'll show you proposed staffing, talk a little bit on things that we bring annually to you and things that we use to help come up with that proposed staffing. We got budget positions and versus like the full-time headcount, vacancies and personnel requisitions, recruiting trends, employment trends, talk a little bit about retirement data, age and length of service. And then we'll sum that up by the workforce trend and an age analysis. So let's go and advance to the next slide. So here is our proposed staffing. You can see over the years, we have reduced staffing and we're getting really stable. So you're not seeing as large as reductions now that we have made some of those cuts. So this year, you'll find in the authorization packet that accounting and finance is going to reduce 1 headcount, and then electric production is asking, it's going to reduce 2, and then we are going to add a headcount to the technology division. And that is an overall cut of 2 positions here that we are proposing for 2026. So here's budget positions and full-time headcount. So you can see when we started in 2018, we had a number of budgeted position and full-time headcount was not really getting close to that. So the management team and the executives, we continue to work and evaluate on those positions that are not filled in keeping them from year to year into staffing. And so as you can see, as of 25, the first part of this month, we were at a full-time headcount of 502 with a budgeted
positions of 545. So over the past 8 years, we have decreased the budgeted positions 13%. Our vacancy percentage has generally declined during those times from a 15% to an 8%. Full-time headcount has generally trended downward, but if you compare it to, it did increase in 24, and then it's gonna probably remain pretty steady in 25 and into 26. So here has the talent team, that's the recruiters, work what on a monthly basis, which is what our averages will look like. Last year, we added another headcount. So adding another recruiter to help source candidates and fill positions has really changed our days to fill significantly down to 70. Along with, so we're working on enhancements. So hopefully that will even be better in 26. So this is what the average looks like for 24. We finished it out, and this is where we're at for September. If you look at our active requisitions, so we may be filling, and it's kind of a continuous. So we always have internal, external, about 18 to 20 requisitions from time to time. So let's go over some of the recruiting trends. So you can see both like filled requisitions in 23, 24, they peaked. We are having a slight decline in 25. But you know, as we get retirements, we'll see those probably increase in 26. Days to fill, that's one of the wins for this year, is having that on a shorter, where it's 70 days instead of 100 days. That is allowing, you know, a cost savings because of the vacancy being filled in a timely manner. Then we're getting that quality of work earlier than what has happened in the past. So that is a really good win, and props to the recruiters here at BPU. They work really hard. And then the vacancy of percentage, that's something dramatic reduction in 23, and now it's at the lowest level. And then new hires, we had a growth in 24. There's been a slight drop in 25, but the numbers are remaining average. So that's telling us that we are really getting to our stable head count for the organization. A lot of our vacancies are hard to fill positions that we actively work on. So active requisitions, these kind of fluctuate, but remain relatively high compared to what we had in 2020, so 5 years ago. So let's talk a little bit about turnover. So turnover is important when you're looking at staffing and looking at headcount, because if you have very high turnover, you really have to plan for that because you have your training times. And so here at BPU, just to give you some comparisons, we really have a significantly low turnover compared to the national average. So the national average is about 18% for an annual turnover. And that means like average monthly turnover for most companies is 3.2%. So you look that most companies are turning over what we're doing on an annual basis, on a monthly basis. So that is something that really helps the stability here at BPU. And overall, it really helps keep the organization stable by having that low turnover. As I was doing my research, I noticed there is some talks about how utility turnover trends are really high for 24. And they're thinking they're running about 15–18%, showing that we, you know, to look a little bit about our industry, how we're doing here at BPU. And some of those are the retirements of the aging workforce, and then younger influx of younger kids with less experienced employees, and then increased competition for skilled labor is really affecting the turnover for utilities. So those are all things that we consider, and we put that in our staffing and our recruitment plans on an annual basis. So we are actively working with young adults on letting them know what the utility does. So hopefully that will get them to choose a utility profession whenever they get to the adult level, to hopefully get those numbers up in the future overall. Retirement data, we are approaching where the tier two is over half of the organization, right?
It's 53, 55%.
Yeah, so with
Working
that.
with pensioning.
Yeah, thank you. With that being, we're gonna see the eligibility percentage lower as the tier two is becoming more part of the organization. But the one thing, you see our eligibility and you see the percentage retired. We're very stable when it comes to how many individuals are retiring compared to what is eligible. So that's been a pretty consistent. Actually, when I was doing my numbers, I noticed that 23 and 25 was exactly the same. So that's very rare. And so that's data that we take into consideration when we're doing staffing, because usually when someone's retiring, that's a lot of history and good talent exiting the organization that we have to replace. All right. And here's another factor that here at BPU, the average age of our employees consistently has been, in the upper like 45 to 47. Looking at in 24, full-time employees are usually like 42.2 is what we're looking at when I look at the labor statistics. Our workforce is really made up of a lot of professionals, trade and management, and they have a tendency to be a little bit higher with the labor statistics looking at it 43 to 46. And then the estimated length of service, so the tenure here at BPU is 12. And you can see if you combine the turnover and the length of service, we're here at 12 years is what the average length of service for an employee here at BPU. And the estimated mean is 5.1 to 5.3 years. So that means that people are coming here to this organization and they're staying. And so that's good, definitely for the type of for the utility, because there's a lot of knowledge and history that's important for the services we provide. Here is the trends and ages, just pretty much kind of taking the numbers of the previous slides and putting them in more of a understanding. So overall turnover peaked in 21-22, but it declined in 24. Termination turnover has fluctuated, but remains below that 5%. Hiring, we had that significant new hires in 24, there was 57 of them. The age is pretty consistent, but it's stabilizing to about 47. And then retirement increased from 18%, and then it went into 22%. But the one thing, like I mentioned, is that who actually is retiring remains low, which means the retention's strong there, despite the eligibility. All right. I watched you guys retired, so I try to get through that information fairly quickly for you. And a lot of that is just updates from year to year. So does any of you have any questions regarding staffing?
One thing the other thing the actuary points out is sort of like tier one group now is a little less than half, even though they're eligible at 55, their average retirement age is almost 60, so 59 in 9 months or something. So some folks are working longer, which drives our average age. And the fact that if you look back to some of those previous years, we didn't fill a lot of jobs in that 2020 through 23 timeframe. But we're doing a good job in the HR team finding different ways for us to recruit. And we had the whole line school class in here Friday from community college. And it was a really great day, great tour, nice inroad there for us to get kids from our own community that are going through one of our community programs and maybe get it right into our organization.
Just got a question about, you said it's good to have the eligibility retired still on the workforce. because of their experience and all. Do you see any, negative reasons for maintaining that large number of, eligible retired, people on staff?
Well, with our retirement age being, it's not the net, 65, 67 is the social security. With it being lower, there's really not a negative impact to have, the eligibility be high and our actual people retiring. So some of that eligibility is at 55, and Jeremy said that most people are leaving this organization in tier 1 at 60. And so I don't think most of these individuals are in tenured roles, lead roles. They're vital to the organization to pass that knowledge down. And so with,
That's my concern.
yeah, with the baby
The
boomers
ability to pass it down is.
slowing down, there was a lot of knowledge exiting the workplace, like when I first started here about 12 years ago. So that slowed down a little bit, that we're allowed to get new people hired and get that knowledge transferred. Versus like Jeremy, when we were trying to get linemen and we had, all that knowledge and then it leaves, and now we're finally getting that knowledge built back up so that they're able to help those that are learning. And it's just overall a better experience for the new hire along with the utility overall.
Awesome.
And we do have a succession planning.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
The succession planning that's taking place now, I think it's really gonna be.
Yes.
For the organization.
Years ago, and all of our C-level positions have it, and then our director.
Well, Steve's not here, but good example, Chris Stewart, the director of water engineering, put in his retirement papers a couple of months ago, for the end of the year. And, we've been really intentional working with HR about the succession plans and about the importance of training, folks just in general, but also things like this. Chris knew he was leaving. And so he turned his paperwork in early, allowed Steve's group to work with HR, get the job description updated, get their candidate pool identified, get their interviews done, and they've made their selection. And so that person's gonna have 2 months to work with Chris on transitioning out. And so
Great.
things like that, we're trying to get better at. We've been horrible in the past and through no fault of HR, it's just different people in the organization, in different positions, but waiting to do any of that until somebody left. Well, we're behind the 8 ball then. Now there's a gap, not only in just work getting done and things, but then by the time you go find somebody, the other person's gone, and there's no opportunity to transfer any of that, working history, knowledge, all those things. We've gotten better at that.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, I understand IVR is gonna be a big help. Of course, 12 years ago, when I came on the board, they first started with IVR, it was gonna be a big help, and it's been a cluster ever since. But hopefully this new system will work. You've got 44 customer service employees. We still daily get complaints about not being able to talk to somebody, not being able to contact somebody. Why have we? Is there no way that we could hire more people in customer service to deal with the customer?
It's a trade. At the end of the day is where do we get the vacancies? And, all of those people have long-term perpetual costs. And if that, becomes a priority and we identify we need to do that, we'll certainly do it. Andrew, he tests when we start talking about adding bodies, just because of all things that go with it. But we do know of late, it's been bad, and we are not running from that. We're owning it. It's been terrible. And so we've tried to look at with Abby's team, Gabi, all of them, is there cross training opportunities? Are we training people the right way? Are we staggering breaks the right way? Are we letting the right number of people off, and not overburdening ourselves with, self-inflicted vacancies and things. And so sometimes, honestly, I think Abby would tell you, it comes down to expectations, training and holding those people accountable, which Abby's done a good job of turning that ship over the last year a little bit. We've done some things in there to publish performance rates and different things. So it's sort of breeding in some internal competition and things. But I mean, from a number of team member perspective, I'm not sure that what Abby thinks about, do we have the right number? Do we need more? Nobody in this organization, including me for the last however many years, has ever said, I'll take less people. That's not what they ever want.
It's the 44, so keep in mind, customer care is more than just the agents, right? I mean, that includes the ones that make sure the billing is right. That's the one taking the payments, the ones, so there's a lot of other positions there, supervisors. Exactly, ones, making sure the meter reads are coming in, right? So there's multiple different functions that happen in customer care. Typically, the fully staffed is 44 customer service representatives. It has been rough. We had several internal movement. We had some promotions and some take jobs in other departments and things like that, which is good for the organization. But it left our CSR short-staffed. And then if you're already short-staffed and if you have anybody on vacation or sick leave or something like that, it perpetuates the problem. So we have hired a group. That's the 3 that we're on this week, 3 additional ones. We've got 2 more new hires who should be independent on the phone either later this week or next week. And then that only leaves us 1 short. So that'll make a significant.
And we're actively already recruiting.
Yes.
It's almost at the inviting people for that one.
Yeah, that's great. And so, yes, thank you. Actually, we are actively. So 14 is a good number. What hurts us, if we stay at 14, we really do a good job. Our answer rate and things like that is good. It's when you lose 1 and then you lose 2 and you lose 3. And so making sure that we don't go too far without backfilling those positions.
If we had a couple extra to kind of fill in those gaps and places where. That's what I'm saying. I mean, I think the people would tolerate a higher, budget if they could get the service that they want. And
Well, and true, I know a lot of representatives take the job because they'll start there, but they want to bid out the minute they can to another
It's a great way
position.
to,
I'm getting started at BPU.
Well,
And so they kind of go in with that.
They do.
and that's,
Yeah, and that's hurtful.
if I had more hair, I'd pull it out.
We addressed that at our plant by putting in, if you hire in, you can't move for 4 years in these certain jobs and things. And it was kind of painful. We had to work for the union to do that, but there might be some benefit in us exploring something like
No,
that.
like incentivize or some incentive.
We have it
For the first time too, I think since Abby's been here, maybe it was just before, Ashley might remember better. We interviewed people and offered them jobs and they said, no thanks.
Yeah.
We did have a big.
That's
Yeah,
never
That was
happened.
during the remote time, so it's really helping that, workforces are doing hybrid or come back 100% in
We're not
office.
competing.
But I mean,
But
there was customer service, that most customer service reps were remote, so people were like, you're gonna expect me to come. They would come in thinking that they would be able to negotiate that.
So we had
And we'd get to
14
offer.
people on the phones, is that right?
That's our full staff number. So it's not where we've been.
So we had 5 new hires.
Yeah.
That's over a third of your organization that's gone. So I think you'll see now.
It should be.
Unless we have 5 more vacancies, people.
But your point is well taken in that, it'd be nice to have a pool of a couple of positions that could.
Well, and training for a CSR position takes about 4 to 6 weeks. And so even if we hire somebody, you're looking at a month and a half before they are on the phones and can really have a significant impact on that. And so, but to your point, it's, people they like to use that as an entrance into the organization. And it really helps for the other customer care positions. So like if they transfer to a billing position or a credit collections position or something, having that core knowledge really helps them be better at those jobs as well. So.
But it doesn't help the customer. It's trying to get service.
Right.
That's where.
I I couldn't do that job. I would be.
It's a very,
Stressed at the end of the day. I
job.
Yeah.
couldn't do that job. So there's some
I'd want out
way,
too.
you know, you could, I don't know, incentivize or do.
But the IVR that's monumental. That's monumental. I mean.
Very.
Staff in the IVR.
How do you?
You will see a significant impact. And like I said, so before, if I was a Spanish speaking customer, and that's my only language, I would have to call in. And if I just want to check my balance, I will have to speak to a representative. And so now I can call in and push a button in the IVR and hear that automated to me. And so I'm not tying up a phone line or a hold time or waiting for a CSR. So there's some things like that I think will have a big impact on.
Tremendous impact.
To get,
We've heard that before, haven't we, Mary?
Yeah, but this is the first time I heard that we have it in place.
yes, and it's working. We've tested it and the functionality is working.
Yeah, so
We've heard that before.
yeah, we heard, but we haven't heard this before.
I will own and recognize we have had the past couple of months have been a struggle. We hired, the new hires started in late August, so they've gone through training and that really has been a pain point for us these last couple of weeks. I know hold times have been long. Getting to an agent has been difficult. And so we should really see some drastic changes starting this week.
But I don't envision that there'll be a lack of people trying to bid out. And once you get them trained, then they'll be out and they'll be in the same boat.
Something that has changed with this, that our turnover, so a lot of that was actually internal promotions. So that's where a lot of why we got to where we're at. We had.
So it was like a domino
Trickling effect.
So, so Janetta retired and then we backfilled her position internally and Gabi. And so that position needed to be backfilled internally. And so there was kind of a delayed domino effect that happened with some open positions. Carrie, the new customer advisor. So she was in our credit and collections department. She took that position, then her position came over. So there was a lot of domino effect of open positions. I don't anticipate that right now because we don't have anyone that's put in for retirement and to have that. So it was just kind of that perfect scenario of that happening.
And then we also moved them to another, last negotiation, they were moved to clerk 3s from 2. And so that really attracts them to stay in the position because the opportunities of the clerk 3s are harder throughout the utility when you're bidding. So that has really helped retain them, which is maybe cost us, but it's actually saving us paying them.
If you don't see an improvement, let me know.
Yeah.
So the bid out, it's been, they didn't take a pay.
So we're seeing people
I know.
at those lower levels. When it used to be a lateral transfer, they, of course, we could off the phone do that money.
You guys also introduce a new training for the customer service, Ulysses.
We did, and Gabi shared that when she presented at the board meeting. So we did some Ulysses training, which what that does is it helps when the agent has the customer, if say the customer's frustrated and for whatever reason, it helps them learn techniques and things that they can better, work with the customer and not escalate that call even more and some things like that. So some soft skills training. So that way when they get there, so that should help as well. The next thing we're focused on is first call resolution. And so it would be better if we take an extra 30 seconds or 45 seconds with the customer to make sure they don't have to repeatedly call us back because that can be frustrating. So we are looking at different ways that we can positively impact the customer in meeting their needs and the things that they need without creating more problems.
Good luck.
Let me know, I promise. We're working on it.
All right.
Already.
Yeah, thank you, Ashley.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would support extra employees for customer service.
I appreciate that support, Tom.
Yeah.
That's like, we're gonna have Tom and Mary coming.
We'll come back and
We'll come back and help.
I'll call.
Volunteers.
See how fast.
Yeah, good call, test it out.
Well, that was all we had. And again, this is, we condensed 2 or 3 meetings into the one just to try to take advantage of the new meeting structure. So
It's very good. Appreciate it.
Okay, the next time we meet for budget is in November?
It will be in November, and I didn't bring the schedule with me,
Okay.
but we have we'll have a couple of different meetings prior to, workshop where we ask for the bus.
Thank you for that, heads up for the 83 million.
You sure what?
83 million. Thank you for the heads up.
No, I don't want to know. If we're finished, then I move that we adjourn.
Second. Wait a minute, I think the chair has to.
I'll entertain,
I'm just bossy, sorry.
I entertain a motion to adjourn. I'm done talking.
Okay, I move that we adjourn.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we adjourn the work session of October 14th, 2024. Roll call.
Roll call, Parker,
Aye.
Gonzalez,
Aye.
Groneman,
Aye.
Wakes.
Aye.
That motion carries.